All right. So welcome, LaRae, to ARunninThought podcast. My second guest in 33, or I guess this is the 34th episode officially. So welcome. It's good to have you.
Thank you for letting me be here.
I guess to everybody watching, all 5 of them right now, we'll probably be sniffling through this thing because we just tried to go up to the volcano to see the eruption. And there's Pele's hair, which is just fine glass, like fiberglass strands floating all in the air and ash falling down. So we ended up having to turn around, unfortunately, but we wanted to go see the explosion of lava that's happening up there. But another day. That's the beauty of living here, fortunately. We can go back another time. So, but yeah, so here we are. And I guess we know each other from kind of a business client relationship that started with me helping you with some web stuff, and kind of came to know more about another business that you had, different from the original business, but it's a particular product for people, to help people, basically. And I guess we can go ahead and start talking about that. But yeah, so who is this product for? I guess just tell us about it. Yeah, you're the expert.
Hey, thank you. I invented this pillow. I'm the inventor of the Posture Pillow Plus, and I created it for myself, not for you, but it turns out it helps everybody who seems to lay on it. Been recovering from brain injury for 15 years, and nothing was getting me better. And, 14 years into it, about this time last year, I had an epiphany about what might be going wrong, and it was sleep related. My head was like sliding off the pillow at night, and it kept blocking my diaphragm right here. And so I kind of thought about it and went, I wonder if I could get a pillow behind my back. And I've spent the last year inventing things that kind of align with that principle.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. So, I mean, I guess my first real question is, like you said, it's not necessarily just for a particular person. It could potentially be for many people.
For everyone. Yeah. If you have a back, I think you're going to be interested in what I'm saying, especially as technology is taking over our lives and we're spending all kinds of time on the internet, on social media. Our jobs are mostly in front of computers these days. We're sitting a lot, we're driving a lot, and really until I had unlocked how my spine was getting twisted and all of those different parts of modern living, I did not understand why I couldn't recover from this brain injury, which had affected the upper part of my neck, in a really drastic way. So I think those problems of modern living and how it affects our spine, just as far as, just gravity on the spine. If we're a little bit leaning this way, if we're on our computers and our heads are forward, if we're looking down, scrolling on social media, I think we've all looked at a teenager who's been just locked in on their devices, and you see how their neck is so distorted. And I think every adult kind of has an instinct that says, wait a minute, that looks like a problem. Well, for my life, it turned into a life-threatening emergency. And until I figured out all of these pieces, there was nothing in the Western medical world that I work in that even put a dent in it. And amazingly, since I figured this all out, I've been healing in reverse, aging in reverse. I've been healing up a storm. My brain fog is cleared up. My Spanish is better. Like I'm just popping again. And it's really taught me kind of a whole nother way to look at the body and how it works.
Yeah, I noticed, kind of got self-conscious as you were talking to, like the way that I'm kind of sitting, and I tend to, as I'm working at a desk most days, I'll be in this position, and I've got, probably a lot of things compounding the issue, but like this shoulder hurts after years of kind of doing this for a long time. And I notice, like, even as I'm sitting here,
like posture check.
Yeah, you've got a pillow behind you, keeping your spine straight, and then I've got a smaller one, but I'm kind of just hunched over naturally. That's where I kind of fall
And I
into.
think a lot of us, we're aware of that. We want to put a little pillow behind us, but even the little adjustments, the devil's in the details, So for me, it was really about like getting it just angled perfectly, especially at a time when you're sleeping and you can't really control your head. And I discovered that 8 hours of the day, which is a third of your whole life, right, was a tremendous aspect of what was going on with me. And I think other people, because how do you know what's going on when you're sleeping?
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot goes on while I'm sleeping, I'm sure, because every day I wake up with a different kind of ache or pain. And it just, as I'm aging, it compounds. It gets a little bit more intense every year, I guess. Every day, but every year.
It does. There's a lot of wear and tear on the vehicle here, that just it happens. We should use up our bodies and work real hard. And the interesting part of as I started healing, I started feeling every single major injury I ever went through. And my body healed it. That was the magical part too. It was like, oh yeah, I remember when I broke my tailbone when I was snowboarding. I remember how many times I slammed my heel on the ground when I was doing gymnastics, and kind of like, internal way, all of those aches and pains started showing me that, oh, really, that muscle got moved over, that ligament has been strained all this time, or there's a lymph node in the way that was blocking something.
Yeah, I think too, just my personal experience with, kind of some feelings that I was having and some, I think, legitimate health issues, but a lot of those legitimate issues kind of created kind of a base level of anxiety in me, because every day I would wake up and I wouldn't know, okay, how's today going to be? And I was dealing with some real issues that were causing me a lot of like tiredness and just, but with that and this anxiety, I learned, and this may sound a little woo-woo, but to be more conscious about, okay, how am I breathing right now? Am I in kind of a state of fight or flight, or can I slow that down? And a lot of times I could calm myself down from an anxious situation just by adjusting my posture, right? Keeping, allowing good blood flow, and then also just breathing, in for 7 seconds, holding it for 7, and then out 7 seconds. It doesn't necessarily have to be 7, but the point was it was intentional, and I was kind of overriding that natural, involuntary kind of fight or flight, heavy breathing. So
I think we spend a tremendous amount of our days in fight or flight now, where when we didn't have a cell phone that we could just start looking at if we were standing in line at the bank and there's nothing going on, all that being pummeled with information from kind of the moment you wake up till you go to sleep is not exactly our brain's default setting, which I think should have been a calmer state. So all of it compounds in ways that I think are hard to see until like something like my story really showed me that the diaphragm lives right here in the middle. And so if we are, just sitting however, or if we're like this all day, we know when you get to a couple hours, really you need to adjust. You need to get up, take a walk. I think that instinct is because our posture is something our body is designed to have, and we don't like losing it. It doesn't feel good as age-related, stuff starts showing up. I'm right at that age where I also was right at that age where I could see it, like, oh my God, I'm starting to collapse this way. What the heck, that upper back is starting to tilt. Oh, I can't take a deep breath anymore. And all of that was very, for me, related to posture.
Yeah, I think from, just over the years, gravity alone pulls you, down, even if you've got perfect posture. But what I was going to say, and you reminded me of, so we tend to think of like, blood pressure and the obstruction of kind of like the forceful movement of fluids that are being pumped through the body. And that's a whole issue, right? There is kind of that if you've ever had like a limb that's gone numb from like a pinched nerve, or, sitting the wrong way or laying the wrong way. Those are definitely issues. But then you've got other systems in your body, like the lymphatic system that relies on body movement and actually unobstructed passages to flow through in order for that lymph to get to different areas of your body and actually do the thing that it needs to do. And it's super important too for...
So important. So this all led to a 45-page paper about a rare disease, ALS, which is neuromuscular degenerative. I believe I was developing signs of ALS, and it's a complex disease because of, I think, these spinal components, which currently Western medicine has just turned a blind eye to. We don't look at the lymphatic system the way you just discussed it in a manner of being a flow system that's actually there to clear out waste products. So if your flow system is stuck right here and the waste products are in your brain, it makes a ton of sense that you end up with a brain problem. So to me, any brain disorder, all brain disorders are all structural in nature to some extent.
Yeah, I never think of my lymphatic system. I mean, I have knowledge of it, but I rarely think of that as like a cause of an issue or something like that. So, I mean, there's obviously going to hopefully be a lot of people listening to this at some point. So, I mean, can you go into maybe for other people that are kind of like me that just don't think about lymphatic system and what that actually does?
Oh my God. I could talk about this stuff all day. So the way I look at it, I had a blockage here at my upper cervical vertebrae, which showed me that blood flow in and out is important. Those two pathways, though, are very different. So the arterial system, being a nurse practitioner now, the arterial system's got a pump behind it, so it's a high-pressure system. Those arteries are stiffer and more rigid. Blood is going to get through for the most part, but if there's shifts in nature, if the structure, the bones are kind of not in the right place, it's going to be a little harder for that pump action to get through. And that's when you're waking up and your hand is numb, right? The venous system, though, is the veins, the blood coming back out of wherever it went, whether it's to your skin or your organs or your spine. Okay, well, the veins need to drain, and that's a passive system. It's a very low pressure system. So if a bone has shifted into the way, it's going to plug up the veins. The veins actually drain the lymphatic system out of the brain, particularly, and those lymph node ducts are right here by the clavicles. So as we age and our head starts going forward, or if we're at a computer all day, we're blocking the lymph ducts right here. And I've developed, since my pillow, 2 more mechanisms for helping to lift our spines and get straight. I think when kids are up to about age 12, they tend to have this perfect posture. And, if you've ever seen a 12-year-old athlete, like a gymnast or a surfer, they just have such perfect, like impeccable posture. And the posture is really regulated by the myofascial system, in my opinion. Myofascial system has not been studied much by Western medicine at all, and my injury resided there. It was 100% myofascial. The myofascial is what's holding us up, and the way I describe this is if you think about your body weight and what it would take you to lift your body weight and carry you around all day long, most of us do not possess the strength to do that. Right? I couldn't, even our head weighs about 11 to 14 pounds. How would you like to carry a 14-pound bowling ball, 5 feet up off the ground? It really kind of explains that the muscles are not strong enough. They're not designed for that. Your ligaments are not designed for holding everything up. It's the myofascial system, which is really rigid and strong, and it kind of just, there's pressure that holds us up in that way.
Yeah, that's one. It's interesting you say that, because when I would run longer distances, that's one thing that I had to take into consideration and actually be very cognizant of was my head position, because the propensity is, especially if you're on like a trail, like mountainous terrain, you're always obviously going to be surveying for things that could trip you up or whatever. And so your head's often, hanging down. But when you, over the course of like 30 miles of that or 50 miles of that or 100 consecutive miles of that, and your head's been down like this, I mean, you're already feeling bad enough, but that can really do some
Yeah.
harm, yeah. To have your head hung over like this for that long.
For sure, because our muscles are basically levers. So if you've ever been on what's that, that playground thing where
Seesaw.
they have many more seesaws?
Yeah.
Seesaw is an example of a lever. So it's got something here, and you could have it even, and then it takes an even amount of energy to do it. Or if I put it on this side, it's going to take a lot more energy on this side. So as our head goes forward, and now we're throwing off all the levers in our entire body, it takes a lot more energy to move your muscles.
Right. To your point, the stronger your upper body muscles are, the less work your lower body muscles have to do to keep everything upright. Otherwise, they will compensate, but then you end up at a point of failure in the lower extremities because they can only, that whatever it is, ATP, whatever that happens to fire off muscle movement. Eventually, there's this depleted. Yeah. So you have to make sure to keep kind of like a holistic strength and not just always work out the legs only.
Very good point. So when I've thought this through, I'm like, how to explain the fascia part to people?
Yeah.
Well, if I think about swimmers or gymnasts, right before they're ready to go, what do? They like pat themselves down, or they get this very intense standing up straight posture, and they're actually putting all their fascia in line when they do that. Fascia is strong stuff.
Yeah, because you had mentioned about the lymphatic nodes that are in your head, but you also have them like in other locations too, like around the like concentrations around your arms and other places.
Groin,
as well. Yeah.
belly, the neck has a lot of lymph nodes. So as I've been working on people, invariably there's a lymph node that's shifted, and that's part of the pain. For myself, as I shifted lymph nodes and got them to move, suddenly there was freedom back in my body. So the lymphatic system, if it's plugged, it just plugs up the whole thing, and it takes away that freedom of movement for the muscles.
Yeah, I guess too, it's kind of a good indicator, just kind of like in school or whatever, when the nurse or your mom would check your throat for lumps. And you would know if you were really, really sick, if that was lumped up, I guess.
So that's a good example of how fast the lymphatic system can accumulate and really how painful it is.
Yeah.
So there are nerve endings in our lymph nodes. That's where the pain signal comes from. So as I'm working out these, devices that are, personally, they're helping me at this point, and they help everybody that I put them on, which is just blowing my mind, and it always seems to be the same connections that I'm feeling. And I'm like, oh, the body is all interrelated in this way that you can't get this out of a book. We all have a body. You try it out, when you get your spine regulated and it's upright, and you've got a curve in your C-spine like you're supposed to in your neck, and you've got a curve in your low back like you're supposed to, and everything can flow, you feel amazing. The moment these things are kinked for a while, we really feel like junk. And, if we just start tuning inward, so the tools I have, I think, help people tune in and really notice it. Because otherwise we can just kind of check out from what the body is doing. And then what happens? We want to eat junk food. We want to scroll more. We want to just kind of stay checked out.
Right.
So I find that's interesting how the physical also affects the emotional and the spiritual processing of life and overall joy.
Do you want to show?
I do.
And talk about this a little bit. We can hold it up, or we can put it over here, or however you want to do it.
Yeah, so just to show some of the principles of I consider this the big kahuna idea. These are actually leg pillows. I don't know if I have it in the middle. Excuse me, darling. It's not for you, but anyway. So the one of the things I really wanted out of the pillow when I first started designing it was this head pocket. And I wanted it to hold my head securely so that my head wouldn't roll around and roll off the pillow. That's the main thing I wanted. And I absolutely love that part. And I find most people do, that it just sucks you in. You cannot move. There's a noise canceling effect of having those pillows next to you too. It's very comforting. It's kind of like being up against something.
Yeah, I don't know if it's an actual thing, but my understanding, so like for the hearing, like if I don't know if it's a thing for the hearing, like if it's dulled, if that actually helps you go to sleep. But I know like for your circadian rhythm, and as far as like if your eyes are closed and sunlight hits your eyes, that's kind of how people used to know, or my understanding is that's how people used to know, hey, it's daytime, time to get up and do stuff. And then the opposite obviously is true at night. There's no light shining through your eyelids, so you're more prone to falling asleep and kind of subconsciously knowing that it's time to do that. So it'd be interesting to know if that actually does play into, having that hearing.
The hearing
dulled a little bit, yeah.
It's interesting that, first of all, it's a customizable surface, so you got to get the angles right for your body. The goal, though, is to, again, kind of get the spine just straight and aligned. So it puts you on a bit of an angle and by supporting the spine here. So rather than having your spine go like this when you're sleeping and all curled up, the point is to get the chest lifted, and that enables the diaphragm to go up and down more easily. The diaphragm is the thing. It's a pump, okay? It's like a bellows, if you're familiar with how to make fire and stuff. You step on the bellows. So it's actually pressurizing your body all night long. So if it's at the wrong angle, it's going to put pressure here, but not enough here. And then that starts impacting that blood flow stuff. Yeah,
well, I mean, it's involuntary muscle too. So it's going to, if you're obstructing its ability to push on those airbags, which is basically what your lungs are, I would think eventually, it probably gets very high priority in the hierarchy of things to keep running in your body, but eventually it's going to get weakened, I would think. Of course, I'm not a doctor, but
it did. What ended up happening is my diaphragm flipped. So the diaphragm is supposed to, it looks kind of like this. And when we breathe in, it goes down. And then when we exhale, the air pushes out. Well, my diaphragm ended up flipping this direction, and it became much, much harder to pull in air.
Yeah, if you've ever tried to pull a wheelbarrow or a cart, or cart's a bad example, but a wheelbarrow, we'll say, like pulling one that's under load versus pushing one is much, much harder. Yeah, and so your diaphragm, like you're saying, it has to pull down because it's trying to create like a vacuum,
yes,
to pull air in.
So it's kind of like if you're trying to blow up a balloon, it's much easier if it's already inflated. Well, my balloon, all the air was working its way out.
Right, because it's got to overcome like that concavity to actually get to the starting position where it's supposed to be, to actually then start pulling down. So it's almost, maybe not twice the distance, but it's basically doubling the distance that it has to travel. But anyway, I digress.
I'm sure there's a lot of physics in there, and it's going to be really interesting to study it. And what I felt like, though, was just this pain right here, and I could just tell, like, a 5-alarm fire was going on in my body. All of a sudden, it was like, whoa, something bad is happening. And what was really awful about that was that there was no testing that picked up on this.
Not only for musculoskeletal, but like you say, this could potentially be for people that are suffering from like reflux, the positioning of it. If you can maybe get your upper esophageal tract above your stomach, maybe at least provide some nominal amount of relief with that.
Gravity.
Gas is a thing that happens, unfortunately.
Fibromyalgia is on my list of things for sure related to pain. We know fibromyalgia has 18 different spots. They're like been studied, and I believe they all correspond with lymph nodes that are being blocked.
So explain the leg portion too.
Yeah, so this part that goes around, and you can see we have a couple hooks up there. That's so that you can like hook your arms in it and just leave it there. I end up waking up that way nowadays, and it enables me to take even bigger breaths. And it's just, yeah, a wonderful way to do that. So this part extends that all the way down to wherever you need it, kind of on your legs, so that you can start with the arms just going outward this way. And I learned that my right shoulder was starting to just collapse inwards. So by turning the arm out, and sometimes I'll just wake up that way, like, oh, I had my arm this direction. So everything is like getting more exposure and blood can flow better.
So you've had, I guess we'll say, many people, that have tried this, some with ALS, some without. What are the people that are happiest with this? What are they coming back and saying?
As I say, it's been an interesting year for me, because I created this thing because I was just all out of gas, and this pain, I had to do something about it. And for the first 3 months, it was really just for me. I kept refining it, like, okay, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do this. Then I realized, oh, I wonder if anybody else,
Right.
And so almost every single person who lays on it, once I get it adjusted for them, is just, first of all, there's an immediate relaxation response going on. Like, this needs to be clinically studied. It has a way of just turning on the parasympathetic nervous system, which I think is about getting the stuff out of the way of the diaphragm. Your diaphragm runs your parasympathetic nervous system. So there's this immediate relaxation thing. But what's interesting is, because this is a brand new invention and you can't just go to Target and buy it, somehow this left side of the brain is still turned on. And often people are kind of like the inner workings. Right. They're trying to understand it. They're like, wait a minute, what is it doing? Why is this so comfortable? Like, it's a very mental experiment at first.
How can I replicate this?
Yeah, people are kind of like, wait a minute, is there a cheap way? Can I go buy it? The mental blockages are real. And then but some people, friends maybe who are more on the path of healing and healers that I know, the moment they get on it, they fall asleep. They're ready for something that's comfortable. A lot of other people seem to have barriers and blockages towards just letting go. It's designed for you to let go. Part of this elevation around the sides is so that it's raising your elbows, and then this up above part, it's raising you up. That turned out to be just some divine intervention. It's perfect for helping my shoulders heal. It turns out when you're laying down, your shoulders are also kind of like not totally comfortable. How many times have we done this where you're just trying to find that comfort zone and doing this? This is not really good for blood flow behind your shoulder blades. As soon as people lay on my thing, there's no need to wiggle. And I think that is also something they're trying to figure out. Like, wow, it's comfortable.
Yeah, I hope it's nothing more serious, but I've noticed too, like certain posture, even if I'm not lying down, like I'll have like that nerve kind of pinched nerve pain in my arm sometimes. So yeah.
Well, that would bring up these other two things that I've been working on. Oh shoot.
That's okay. We can
now I broke something.
We can cut that out.
Let's show this one. So spent a year working on this, and actually had discovered that one of my third prototypes we're now working on being the chair prototype. So we're putting the same kind of technology, the same thought process about raising and just straightening here, and started driving around with this one behind my back, and that was the final layer of my spine being all screwed up. And it's been magical. In 2 days, like, I felt layers of my fascia just realigning that I've been working on for 15 years.
Driving is wild. It's not so bad here because really and truly, like, how much are most of us really driving here? Not much. But I can remember, living in Atlanta, living in Chicago, and then most of my commutes would be, easily eat into like 45 minutes, an hour, more some days, depending on what was going on.
Yeah.
And, I would make more long trips living mainland too. And eventually you would get to a point in the course of driving, you'd been distracted for so long, but then you would realize, oh, like I'm in a horrible position right now, and I really feel bad. I need to like actually get out and walk around to kind of adjust.
And concentrating, right? Like the brain is in hyperactive mode. You can't totally just like take a nap while you're driving. So that means you're kind of in fight, flight, a little bit of mild stress. You need to be awake and aware.
If you're driving around 285, you're in fight or flight.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. And it's funny because like I said, I've been trying to heal for 15 years. And little did I know, every time I went to work and I had my hand on the mouse all day long. And then, my headache. And then on the way home, I think, oh, I can't wait to get home. And then in the car, it's the foot is on the pedal, right?
It's just, it's like, it's always, it's like an Archie Bunker. Like it's always something.
There's always something. So funny enough, now this is my prototype number 1 or number 2 for this one, but I've been using this while I'm driving and I designed it perfectly. Don't worry. It's a trainer. So it's a strengthener. And by pushing down, you actually strengthen the muscles in the back of your head, and it's making me just like stand up straight. It's like boing. And universally, everybody who's tried this, it turns on the low abdominal muscles, which for me had just, for some reason, I just couldn't get my abs to work, no matter how much I tried to get them to work. The moment I sit this here, I feel it.
It's kind of interesting. So I am somewhat of a designer, so I'll get on Pinterest for inspiration sometimes, but I can almost I've seen like I think they're fake, probably AI generated stuff, but where it's like ornamental like jaw stuff, like gold and silver kind of thing. You could almost think of maybe like a line in the future of that being sort of like an ornamental thing that's also health related too.
Actually,
it's weird, but
when this came to me,
someone will like it.
Thank you. They all came as like kind of this divine moment. I can't explain the moment. It just suddenly, thinking about it long enough, it was like, I need that. And the first thought I had with this neck brace, which is the bigger other thing, was I want it to have a collar on it. Like I want to create a collared shirt around it. So I haven't quite got to that, but I do think that this is like a tool for modern living that we all kind of need. Our necks are getting such a workout. And lately I've been coming home, putting this on for 10 minutes, and it just stretches me, strengthens things, and my body is popping back into place like it never used to.
So it's kind of like a cervical collar kind of thing.
Shall I put it on you?
No.
It seems kind of like a lot. So I do, trigger warning.
Wires. It's gonna.
We're all wired up.
Yeah.
But, it seems close, but it's not. It only touches you in 4 places. The places, it took my brain 2 years to figure out exactly where to put it. And I'm amazed. The thought of putting it on is like, I don't want to take it off. And other people have the same thing. They're like, I want one of these. As soon as I put it on, it just has this way of stretching, that pain in the arm. Like all those things are going away the more I use this. So unfortunately, I think I'll be using it a lot.
Well, I know like motocross riders wear, and I think football too now, they have a collar because of, CTE, I think brought it on. But they have kind of a brace or a pad that goes underneath the helmet and between the helmet and the shoulder pads. I'm trying to wax like I know what I'm talking about. I've only observed this, but yeah.
If they don't, they need it. And if they need it, this is probably the better one because it is spring. And I've felt all these things in the lymph nodes and the lymph node ducts. And I looked at a lot of collars like, I wonder if the ALS patients should just be using neck collars. And then the more I thought about how the lymph flows and the blood flow in and out, it really did take me 2 years to come up with the design.
So, I mean, I guess obviously everybody's not going to be on the same page. So can you kind of elaborate more on ALS because they are a part of the people that would find this useful. But yeah, just go maybe into a little more detail of how it helps them specifically.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this very complex and poorly understood disease. ALS is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. That's Lou Gehrig's disease, or some countries call it neuromuscular disorder or something like that. So some prefer different words, but it all has to do with a disease that science doesn't understand. We don't know what causes it. We don't know what cures it. We have very limited treatment options. Those treatments don't work very well. They may extend lifespan by 6 or 12 months at most right now. So if you end up with a diagnosis of ALS, you're given a death sentence with 2 to 5 years of life expectancy on average. A dear friend of mine passed away of ALS on Christmas Eve of 2021, and about 3 weeks before the end of his life, I had an epiphany about what was causing it, and I've been studying that and researching it every day since. Mm-hmm. If I wasn't on the road, though, of looking into all of that, I never would have figured any of this out and had it heal my own body. So, ironically, I think I was developing early signs of it as well.
So you mentioned that no one is really sure of the cause or the cure, but like more specifically, like you mentioned that it's neurodegenerative or muscles and nerves are impacted by this.
So it's a disease we know it has an upper motor neuron element, which is the brain, and a lower motor neuron element. It's unique in that it tends to have a one-sided onset. So people end up with problems in their arms and legs on one side only. That's kind of rare. There's not a whole lot of other neural things that we're looking for. But time to onset of diagnosis can be anywhere from 12 to 18 months on average. So this is not something you just go get an x-ray and you figure it out. You're getting test after test and spending up to 2 years sometimes not even knowing what it is.
How do they eventually diagnose it?
Sometimes it's a diagnosis of exception. Like once we know it's not MS, it's not Parkinson's, it's not other things, then we assume it's ALS.
So like MS, aren't they able to like ascertain that the myelin sheath that surrounds the nerve ends is like deteriorated or something like that? ALS is not like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there's no like clinical definite. A lot of times it's just
and here's one of the other confusing parts is that people present in a myriad of ways, and their complaints aren't always identical at first, but the disease tends to go in a similar pathway. People die of respiratory failure. So what I'm saying, connecting it to a structural disease is very unknown, unheard of. There's been no studies on the neck with ALS. There's been numerous studies looking at the brain tissue. So we know what we know about it, but we don't know what's causing the brain stuff. I believe that has to do with blockages in the upper throat area. And as I link up with people online, and I've been kind of just putting my ideas out there for the masses because I have reached a glass ceiling with the medical community and with the science research community. It's just sort of unprecedented for a semi-lay person. I am a medical professional to come up with an idea. And I found that it was really wasting my time to look for grants. And I'm just not at the level of being a researcher to get any of those grants. And it was taking up a lot of my time. So I decided to start working on things that would help by applying the research concepts to these developments. And it's not for you. It's not for dog. I haven't made the doggy one yet, but I am working on a gaming chair one and a water version of these technologies.
We've talked in jest, but then I think we actually ended up kind of serious. You might want to move those, by the way. But he's unpredictable.
Are you exploring? Yeah. Okay.
He's unpredictable. Sometimes outside looks like inside, and inside looks like outside to him. So yeah, he can't be trusted. But like I was saying, we were kind of ingesting at first, but so we've got 2 Chihuahuas, and they both tend to want to sleep in my bed, and so obviously I can just kick them out and close the door, but I guess I'm not commiserating, but I will allow it. I will tolerate it. But one of the things that I find is I sleep in awkward positions, usually on the edge of the bed. And I've got them, somewhere, and I'm crooked. So we were talking about possibly having something like you're saying, the dog version that kind of keeps them comfortable, but away
Believe me,
from.
it's already been discussed. Let's create just a little doggy pillow on the side or kitty cat pillow, because dogs and cats wake you up too, and yeah, they're buggers. They end up with the whole bed.
Yeah, I guess too, if you did have an illness like ALS, you would want those pets there too. I mean, that's kind of like your company as well. But I mean, I guess anybody would.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm doing is connecting the dots to our sleep, which is 8 hours out of 24 in your day, a third of your life. And I was a sleep professional for 7 years. And it really took looking at a lot of sleep studies for me to realize that, oh, the guy who's telling me that they're in pain, they move all night long. Their heart rate accelerates a lot. And that means the burden is on the arterial system, and then the veins are going to collect and they can't work as well either. And the lymph. And, as I started thinking this all through, I'm like, oh, I wonder if sleep is a factor, and for myself, after I started sleeping on a pillow, I started making a full recovery 14 years later.
I just want to make sure we're still recording. I get nervous.
We can do this again.
I get nervous because
right?
One day I did this 3 times by myself because I kept forgetting to hit record on the audio, and then I forgot to hit it on the video the next time, and yeah, it's a mess.
Hey, we all got to start new things. So,
but you can see now from those experiences, I'm actually learning to be like super diligent with like, is this on? Is it really on? And I actually caught it before we started, because I guess whenever I unplugged something from the Rodecaster, it actually turned off the ATEM, which is the video part. It stopped the recording. I didn't even realize it. So if I wouldn't have been so fight or flight about it, then we would have just been talking to ourselves.
Fight or flight has its place. I do want the IT guy to pay attention sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, me too. I don't like.
We need to figure out how to turn it off, how to live our lives in a more relaxed state. We can be at the computer and be more relaxed at the same time. We can drive and be more relaxed at the same time. But I think the more that we're constantly panicking, the state of the world is a really good example of what it looks like when we never turn off our fight or flight systems. Maybe a little bit of what's happening today has to do with that.
Yeah. I think to your point, there's a certain amount of being intentional that, you kind of have to put in some effort and do things a specific, and like think about what you're doing versus just kind of coasting along and it'll be all right. Kind of thing. I'll sleep weird tonight. It'll be all right. I won't worry about it.
It's easy to just keep on keeping on and doing what we're doing because that's what we've been doing. And I think that in Western medicine, we have kind of run up against with certain diseases because we don't really have the best answers for some diseases. You're just going to end up suffering, or they kind of turn a blind eye and say, oh, maybe you need an antidepressant, honey. A lot of female conditions, I think, comply with this spinal aspect of way of looking at the body and health. And unfortunately, female conditions have not been studied, that have not been funded. Research has not been looking at female problems like fibromyalgia or autoimmune conditions, which are by and large female conditions. The way I look at it with how the lymphatic works and all of this, it makes a lot of sense that women would have more autoimmune disease because the lymph system is our immune system. So if our immune system is plugged up because of the spine, because of the pillow, because of electronics or whatever, then the body's going to attack itself. Interesting. I think it's a whole new and better way of looking at the body and how it works. This is an addition, not a subtraction to what we already know. It will help any disease process to hold your spine in the right kind of framework for our bodies, and to have the body be at the right weight. Right, too much weight is not helpful The digestive system is also in there. Hey, you got something to say, buddy?
He's an idiot.
I've had people lay on the pillow and immediately have to poop.
Interesting.
I gotta point that out. And I think it has everything to do with the gut is in here somewhere too. And as we lift and we give a little bit more expansion, room for the diaphragm to do what it's supposed to be doing, helps move stuff on.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to something similar to that earlier when I was talking about gas.
Yeah.
It might help get intestinal gas out.
Motility. And gas, let's think about gas for a second. It's really not good.
Do we have to?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to talk about it. It's not good to be full of shit.
Yeah.
And gas is pressure. So talking about a pressurized vault, right? The body is like trapped. All of this pressure is trapped. So if gas suddenly shows up, it's pushing against structures like the veins. So now you can't get the veins to drain the blood through, and the arteries also have more pressure. So it's a good way to dry out some intestinal tissue, which is where we make our neurotransmitters, right, that regulate and calm our nervous system down. So gas is really a bad thing.
So I mean, I guess just inflammation and pressure in general, your body's going to respond to that in kind, and it kind of perpetuates, right?
It does. It works the body. Inflammation is bad. It is global. Once we inflame, we're inflamed, and the body is trying to put out fires everywhere. The more that you activate your immune system, the more it's going to get some of it wrong and shoot the wrong things over and over and over again. And then you're going to have a problem. You're going to have autoimmune, inflammatory type conditions, which could be arthritic. They could regulate a lot of different systems like lupus, or MS, like you say, attacking just the nerve fibers, depending on which part of the immune system is overactive.
And then two, if you choose to treat that inflammation, right? So a normal scenario would be like you have chronic arthritic pain, so you treat that with like NSAIDs, and then you like Motrin or something like that, and you do that long term, you end up, I think, not only causing gastrointestinal distress, possibly issues there. But I think after a while, if I'm not mistaken, you actually increase the amount of inflammation by using NSAIDs long term. I might be wrong on this, but
in the sense that it's wearing out the stomach lining, it's impacting the kidneys. In the beginning of my injury, I was prescribed and needed 20 pills a day. And they didn't work. Okay, I was in the worst pain ever. I could barely sleep. I didn't sleep through the night for 10 years straight. But since this thing, I feel amazing. I feel like a kid again. I'm getting younger, literally. So you bring up a good point of pharmacology and just throwing pills at a problem, a symptom, right? So inflammation is a symptom, but what's the real issue, underlying issue? Currently, our Western studies do not look at underlying. Etiology, which is the underlying what causes it, is usually we don't know. But we're going to throw this pill at it. That's our answer. We know we got inflammation. Okay, take the anti-inflammatory. All right, I did that. Now what? And I do think we're having more pain management in our country, more depression, anxiety, obesity, all these things that go with depression. And our pills aren't solving that. Actually, we have more of it. So to your point, I think it does create more because it creates a demand for more. It's like, okay, I took one and it didn't work. Should I take more? Did I just keep taking? Or what's the real root cause?
Yeah, a couple things on that too is like you can keep trying things like a pillow and maybe it doesn't work. But there's always the likelihood that, yes, it will work for you versus... And this is external, so it's not like it's not something that is causing, chemical effects inside of your body. It's something that you can discontinue tomorrow if you decide it's not working for you, if it's not your thing. But with like medication, and I've actually experienced this firsthand, you will get into like this cycle, especially if you've got something going wrong in your body where, one provider will say, okay, you need to start taking this long term. You can't stop until we tell you to stop, or you're going to take this as well, and you can never stop. You just take this for the rest of your life. And that's kind of a very defeating feeling when a doctor says, hey, look, you don't live another day in your life without making sure that you have this medication always with you. And then you take this, however many times a day you're supposed to take it. But it's
a really important point. And in that, when I finally flipped the switch and went, okay, what can I do about it? Then I developed this self-empowered thing, where it was like, oh my God, I did this and it helped. I can do more. But when you are handcuffed to a system and it's like, you need these pills, you've got diabetes, it really does, I think, deplete our self-empowerment and make us, well, I guess I just got to take the pills so I can keep eating whatever. You're still going to end up with the problems. The pill is just it's a symptom. We're just going to do a little Band-Aid for a little while. You're still going to end up there. And you've actually robbed yourself of the creative potential of solving it and figuring it out yourself.
Yeah, so for me personally, going through all the hassle to get to see, different providers and get all the tests and explain myself, the same explanation to sometimes the same provider at different points in time. And then, specialists and things over and over again, super frustrating. And it's not like this pillow will alleviate that. But my point is, I was put on like all these medications and I was feeling, good some days, horrible. I could tell like the medication were making me feel bad other days. And then to cap it all off, I went to see a specialist and he was like, stop taking all the medication that you're taking. Like, you don't need to be on any of this. And so I did. And it's not like doing that, there weren't bad things that happened after it. There were. So I don't want to paint that picture of like, well, you can just stop taking all your medicine and you'll be fine. But in my case, I actually am still here. So obviously I didn't need all of that to be alive. At least not yet. But yeah, so it's wild to go through all that expense and all that hassle and explaining and you get to someone that's like, you don't need to do any of that.
Right, and they're a specialist. So, I mean, the way I look at it is with a broad stroke of why do we spend 3 times more on our healthcare in America per person than they do in Japan? Because they understand posture? I don't know. They walk a lot. they eat. Okay, they eat a lot of rice. They eat their rice. But they're not as sick as we are. So I think in America we have such a big paintbrush problem that we're not healthy. We're not remotely healthy. We're not trying to be healthy. There's no real avenue to figure out, like, how do I get healthy here? It's up to you. You got to like watch podcasts and construct what you think is health. What I'm trying to offer people are tools so that they can look within and realize your body is designed to be healthy. It actually is. We do, you mentioned like turning on chemicals. Yeah, your sleep is when your body heals. It's when your brain is taking out the waste products. And the immune system is designed to heal itself. We have stem cells. We can create anything. We can heal any problem in the body. I'm now convinced, because I suffered for 14 years and I got better the moment I started sleeping on this. And the moment I started using this, it's like, oh, that's the regenerative nature of our own nervous system.
Yeah, so also when I was told to stop taking medicine, like you're saying, the doctor also said, hey, look, your problem is self-induced. Like, stop eating so much. Wow. Like, you're overweight, guy. Like, I understand that you do activities and that's nice, but, stop doing this and that will help with some of these symptoms that you're having. Not all of them, but some of these can be avoided if you would just change your habits. And that was just, my mindset at that time was different than what it is now. At that time, I was looking for somebody to tell me what I'm supposed to do. But now I kind of understand, like you're saying, your body actually wants to, it's kind of like flying a plane. The plane wants to go straight and level flight unless some other force acts on it. Same thing, I guess, with your body. It wants to be healthy, and it will, if you start putting, stuff in it, even if you like drink too much water, right, it'll try to compensate and do something to get that level back down to homeostasis or whatever. So
totally. Look at every other mammal in the world. They don't take pills. The giraffes are healthy, for the most part. If they have their environment and they can eat, they don't need stuff. Like, if we just have developed this mindset from a system that I think is really toxic and broken. It's a sickness care model where you got to be sick. So now we got to be sick to even go talk to the healers. That is such a change from how society used to work. We used to be healthy and doing whatever. And then you had healers around. Okay, they were nearby. They would fix you. Boom, boom. You go right back to what you were doing.
Yeah, it's wild today. Unless you are unless you have enough sway or enough money to kind of push your way in the door, most places, the entry fee is kind of like you have to be on death's door for them to even like give you a sideways glance. Otherwise, you're just kind of triaged in like a mess of like insurance copays and approvals, and
Here's the way I look at it. Usually, if something happens to a physician, they need knee surgery, they need back surgery, they've got a GI issue, something, they skip to the front of the line. They got friends in the biz, right? They call up their friend. I need an x-ray. They need something. They go do it on the weekend. They have the ease of access. And if they need surgery, oh, believe me, they get the best one, right? They're going to get the VIP treatment. Why? Because we have a system that does not serve everybody's needs. And they know that. They work in the system. But more importantly, I'd say most doctors try to not utilize the system. They don't want to have surgery. They don't want to go on diabetes pills. And they have the intelligence and they know better. Most doctors are very active. Most doctors do yoga. They work out. They do whatever. And what are they working on? The same system I'm talking about, the myofascial system, the posture. The whole point of running is to be strong, right? And to keep your body strong. So most doctors know that. Sickness is not the goal. Most people, I think, in America are not even aware. Like, they think they got to have a reason to go see the doctor. So that just shows you, like, health is no longer the preset notion, right?
Well, there's a cultural aspect to it as well, because, like, in the corporate world, oftentimes the expectation, whether it's overt or it's implied, is that you need to be here, or it's kind of the attitude doesn't match the compensation in a lot of places, but the prevailing attitude is, we need your body here every day, 24/7. You cannot be sick, blah, blah, blah. There's a pressure to perform or be replaced, and who knows what AI and will do to compound that. But I think there is kind of that attitude of like, I can't miss a day.
There is very much, the financial system is very tied to the healthcare system. So when I became a patient as a medical provider, suddenly my job was threatened. Suddenly, it was like, how do I pay for insurance if I'm sick? Well, I got to keep working. Oh, okay. How do I work if I'm sick? Like, there's no middle ground. You're either well and maybe haven't had to access the healthcare system and you think everything is fine. When you get sick, you're going to find out that suddenly there's all this rigmarole and you got to keep your job in order to have health insurance. So it just became this very catch-22. It's like, how and when and how am I supposed to get better here?
Yeah, it's odd. Some places will ask you for a doctor's note after you take like official PTO. And it's like, why do I need to be sick enough that I need to go see a physician in order to take a day to like regroup? So that, I mean, that's an example of where we're at. Like you have to be ill enough to where you go pay someone whatever your copay is. So you have to pay for your day off, right? Day off, and you're miserable, during that time if you're really sick. And then you have to go sit in one of these places for
where
some portion of your day, and you are not feeling great. Yeah. So,
and another point you almost brought up there was people who game the system so that they can officially be off work, right? So then there's that, and there's just in no way is the system serving really sick people like myself, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if it's almost like if it were a thing where you just did what you needed to do and nobody cared, you wouldn't have to game it, But there, I guess, I don't know. I don't want to complete that thought because
Well, it's interesting because I've traveled enough and I've seen like socialized medicine work. And in socialized systems where if you got a little cut or something and you want a doctor to go look at it and all you got to do is walk in and they're like, oh no, that's just a rash. You can put something on if you want or it should clear up, and you get your answers and you're out and it doesn't cost you $1 million and it's not some big racket and you don't have to appeal it and pay a copay and blah, 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 all this stupid shit just to get to health care. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
But I think it just automatically, it changes people. People who are not American, in my view, they have a desire to be healthy. It's kind of the default. Like they still are in that setting of like wanting to be healthy as the thing. Americans will sometimes joke about like, well, if you just fell and, made a lawsuit and then you wouldn't have to work and that's kind of our default is when did we ever get out of this hole?
A step further than that, some people they jump off buildings because they're tired of doing it anymore. They don't want to be a part of it. And they feel like there's no other way that they can actually do it.
Very trapped here, and sadly that happened to my partner and caregiver because we were in such an unholy crisis. All of a sudden, we're both medical professionals, and suddenly we became patients and having to deal with the system. The system was the hardest part. I still have medical PTSD from 15 years of trying to work with the system and trying to get my needs met and going to the doctor and just wanting to get a test and see if it's something else and having to deal with all this rigmarole that really wasn't ever getting to my needs.
Well, there's the flip side too, and that's kind of why I gave that weird face a minute ago. It wasn't because you said shit.
Okay, we said it again. Good.
But I was thinking, and I'm not trying to, cast stones at providers or anything like that, or the health system. If you're sick and you need to go see a doctor, go see a doctor. Like don't listen to me. But how many times do people go to see a healthcare provider and in the States, right? When you're talking about just looking at like a abrasion or something and sending someone off, but maybe not in that case, but how many times do people get diagnosed with a serious illness when it turns out later on that they actually never had that illness, like misdiagnoses and like the impacts that could possibly have on them as well. But that's, that may be outside the scope of our.
There's a whole lot. It's a hot mess because I think people kind of accumulate problems. And now you go see your doctor and you want to ask 6 or 7 questions, but they're limiting you to only 2, right? You got to come back. So there's this billing aspect of it, that never worked out for me having so many issues going on from brain injury. It's like, no, you can only talk about 2 things. Well, really? Okay, my neck problem gave me like 14 things and they were always changing. And that just didn't fit in the box, So we've got these very rigid, I think part of that, the misdiagnosis concern is that like we've got these rigid boxes. And if you call it something, then it's that, and it's like, it's preventing us from thinking about, well, how can we fix that? Did humans always have that? Or is that something that's more related to modern living?
And are you just stuck with that, right? Because I know I won't go into great detail because obviously I don't want to put the person's, identity out, but I do know someone that was actually told they probably would live, 5-7 years. And so that person kind of took that on, like latched on to that and sort of acted that way. So it just kind of like became despondent and, what's the point? Somebody told me, and therefore it is, I will only live for 5 to 7 years. And it's been like 14, maybe 20 years since that person got told that, and they're still here. So
thank you.
Yeah.
I love this topic. I think it's a great way to kind of like summarize and wrap up the work that I'm putting out into the world. It's about belief. Okay. What you're discussing is beliefs and what we truly believe. If you believe you're sick, they told you got cancer, you only got 6 months left to live, it's just a death sentence. Your mind is already wrapped in believing that. So you ask me, like, what do people normally do when they first lay on the pillow? I think it starts changing their beliefs right away. They start feeling comfort. They start feeling that ache or that pain go away, which they had previously believed was just them, or was just getting older, or, the doctor said it was this, or I had back surgery. No, I shouldn't. And right away, I'm like challenging people's beliefs because, well, what would it feel like if you actually were comfortable every day? What would it be like if you didn't have that pain? What if we didn't call it, bother to call it something, but we worked on fixing it instead? So I think that's kind of where we're at. The evolution of healthcare is, let's get out of calling it something so that we're stopping with the framing it and the beliefs and get more into how do we fix it?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm not in any way saying that you can cure yourself of cancer by believing you don't have it, but there is something to not getting up every morning and going immediately to a screen, not immediately turning on the news and seeing like horrible things that are happening in the world. It's important to know those things, right? And react to them, but again, with the intention, right? Don't start off your day with that and then the caffeine blast. You do these things if you need to do them, but in measure and with intention. And you can trick yourself into believing that there's no hope.
There's no way out.
Right. But
or you could be working on it.
like you were saying,
you could drink more water.
At the beginning of this, we've always had some level of challenges and decision making. And Jaron Lanier, he's a computer scientist and an author. He's actually written about kind of like the state of technology and where we're at now versus humankind a long time ago, basically our ancestors, and how the decisions that we make now in a day, like primitive ancestors probably wouldn't have made in a lifetime.
Right.
And now, granted, their life was probably much, much shorter than ours, but we're impacted by so many things that we have to decide and have executive activity on in one single day. I think you can make yourself believe that it's just pointless, or there's no hope, or whatever, and you can trick yourself down that path of just like a perpetual depression. And I don't, it's kind of like we were saying, like the inflammation has impacts. I think, right, I'm not a medical professional, but I think you can actually like sully your overall affect and cause, maybe not overtly, but cause bad things to happen just because of the way that you act, because you think that, there's no point.
There's no point.
Yeah.
I mean, my story is so powerful on this topic because for 14 years, I just kept getting worse and worse, and it kept changing, and little things, and I literally lost friendships and caregivers and support and all. If I believed what the doctors were telling me the whole time, which I didn't for some reason, I knew it was related to my neck and whatever. I was committed to fixing it and figuring it out. And then at year 14, for something to just so dramatically turn it around, that has been really, it's a year in and I'm still having shock moments of like, I can't believe. I actually started getting better. I can't believe that thing went away, you know?
It's amazing. And I had a similar experience of, mine was kind of getting to a point where, it sounds bad, but I kind of realized that, not in a nihilistic sense, but no one can help you the way that you can help you. So you have to advocate and you have to do the things. And then maybe, it's not promised, but maybe if people see that you're trying, it will encourage them to help. But ultimately, like if you want to dig yourself out of a hole, you have to start with yourself. Like you have to have some kind of plan to start acting on. But if you have no plan and you just are kind of there, lamenting on everything that's happening and you're allowing everything to happen to you, you stay in that mindset, and that's what's going to happen. Things are just going to happen to you.
Especially in America. Yeah. No offense. We're still a young country. We're only a couple hundred years old here, and we have car-driven societies more so than any place else. Other countries developed their infrastructure around walking, around, horse and buggies or whatever. Things are closer. In America, we spend way more time in our cars than any other place. So there's some aspects of being American that I think are so universal that they seem normal, but they're so not. We eat fast food, which is literally petroleum products.
Yeah.
Most people don't eat that way. Most people eat fresher stuff than we get. And, we're also being pummeled with foods from all over the planet, which is a bit unusual too. So maybe that's just an immune system challenge, that we eat so much variety where we didn't used to have that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting to think about because like with my wife being Japanese, I tend to eat a lot more, this is going to sound racist, but it's not. I tend to eat more rice living in a Japanese household than I normally would. Like growing up with my parents or whatever, we had rice, but not nearly to the level. I mean, it's actually the Japanese word for eating or like food is rice, Mm-hmm. But anyway, my point being, mm-hmm. It doesn't really agree with me in large quantities. I don't think, again, this is conjecture, but I don't think my genetics or my body is set up to handle that much. Whereas, like, I'm sure she has no problem with it. And it seems like Japan's getting along just fine with all of the rice that they eat. Again, so that sounds racist, but it's not.
Stuff that we deal with in America that other places don't maybe see as much as we do. But definitely the effects on the spine, I think, we're seeing them more here. That's my kuleana. I went through a 14, 15-year journey to learn what I learned about the spine and how tremendously important it is to our health. We all have spines, and we don't do spine transplants. Why, right? We don't. It's such an integral part of who we are as humans. And if you look at our athletes, we admire their strength, and their strength comes from a strong spine.
Sorry. What's going on?
I know, I'm hearing stuff. So, long story short, sit up straight, head straight, eyes straight. As much as you can have your phone literally right in front of your eyes, it needs to be here. And this is hard to do, so you should have it on a stand. That's my recommendation. And you should put it down. You really should have whole days where maybe you're not using your phone. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that I think that needs to be stated. I don't know what we've done or how we got to the conclusion that we need to be glued to a screen, every minute of every day. But I don't think, for a plethora of reasons, I don't think that is good for us. Mm-hmm. I think personally that the physical harm that it does, it's lesser than the mental harm that it does.
I think they're actually very closely tied, because to me the physical is putting strain on the vagus nerve, which is right there. The vagus nerve is the one that calms down our fight-flight response. So the physical is directly tied to the emotional in the aspect of looking at the phones all the time. And then the more you're on the phone, it does jack up your like nervous system. So they're one and the same. And the only way you find this out yourself is to actually take it away and see how you feel. I find on the days when I'm not on my phone right now or doing something, it's like, oh, this is cool. I got something to show for it. You know, it's like I did something. On the days if I'm just on my phone, there's nothing to show for it.
Exactly. So, old man yelling at clouds here, but my lament with AI, and it can just be extended to having a screen around in general at all times, right? Is that kind of similar to what you're saying? Like my son, if left untethered, would play video games for the rest of his natural life. And what I tell him all the time is that that's fine, that's fun for you, and that's interesting conversation for anybody else that plays video games for most of their life. But what happens when you get into a crowd that doesn't play video games? What are you going to discuss with them? You know, are you going to talk about the games? There's only so far you can stretch that and make people be interested in that and be an interesting person and start communicating, right, on a base level. You need to have other hobbies, is what I tell him. Not only for yourself, you're diversifying. What happens if the power goes out? Now your only thing that you do is done. Do something else. Like, I don't know, play a musical instrument. Find something else, you know, take pictures or whatever. Find something else, not only that you're interested in, but something that will make you somewhat interesting to other people so that you can actually get your foot in the door and they can find out more about you. Because I think no matter where you go, societies are kind of transactional in that nature, where people generally don't want to just talk to you because you exist. There's usually some crossover, like, you know, I can do this thing, or I can show you how to do something, or I can give you something, or you know, this is something that's interesting about me. Generally, people just don't.
We look for common ground.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I am designing a gaming chair next, because I do believe there are a lot of parents out there who are concerned about their kids on video games. And hey, if I was growing up right now, I'm sure I'd be doing it too. And my hope is they'll grow out of it. But right now they're not out of it. And I think that the physical is impacting their inability to kind of unplug from it as well. So I want them to be in gaming chairs where the pressure's off the nervous system and the device is right there. I think that's at least a start in helping our kids next to grow straight, so that the incidence of ALS is on the rise, by the way. And I think it has to do independently. It's on the independent rise, independent of like our aging population and things. So I think the neck is definitely a part of that. And this is part of my sense of urgency in getting the healthcare systems to understand, because if I'm correct, there is going to be a mushroom effect of ALS showing up in the future. We already don't know what to do about it. And if what I'm saying is correct, it's not going to be easier to fix later. When you agree with me later, why don't we all try to globally work, you know, and understand that the spine is important. There are 21 ligaments that are paired up that hold the head in place. So the head is like an 11 to 14 pound bowling ball. It's got these ligaments underneath it that are holding it tight. If you spend your whole life stretching out those ligaments, you're going to be in trouble. Whether I'm right about ALS or not, when you age, your head is going to literally flop over. And we've all seen elderly people like that. Okay, so, you know, right or wrong, it ain't going to be good for your neck to overstretch it when you're a teenager. So I think we really do need legislation at some point about, you know, pressure off the neck. We're going to have hell to pay down the road.
Yeah, I think, you know, the dependency on screens, back to yelling at the clouds.
Yeah.
There was a time, and I can remember, when if you needed to go somewhere, you had to like figure it out. you would either consult with, a map, or you would get some kind of, what do you call it? Landmark type directions. And there was a thinking process. There was some friction into getting to your goal. Now it's just like, oh, I need to be somewhere in 5 minutes. Let me get directions handed to me. And you kind of become reliant on a device. A lot of people I've heard say, I don't even know how people got around without navigation, which I agree. Like, I'm not anti-navigation, I'm not anti-phones, but now, especially with AI, even before, like GPT and you would have people that would just consult their phone or Google for everything. And so there's not
We
critical.
used to talk to each other for that kind of basic stuff.
Right.
How do I get from here to Ginger's house? Oh, it's on 29th Street. Okay, so you're just going to go up here to wherever, make a left. It's not even hard. But we don't even bother to do that anymore. I know I can use my GPS. I don't need to talk to you.
Exactly. There used to be some level of conferring that had to be done. Now, of course, there were gatekeepers, and that wasn't always easy. But part of what was good about that was the actual friction. So it's more than just like this passive thing of like, I will ask the mighty oracle and get the answer I seek. But you had to learn some interpersonal communication. You had to learn, I got to deal with this guy. He's going to be an asshole.
And half the time on the way there, the directions weren't right, and you had to slow down and stop and ask somebody, or go in the grocery store and ask somebody, and that caused some of those social casual conversations that we learned how to do.
But like you were saying, kind of at the end where you kind of did the affectation, people now will tell you something that they just read off the internet, like they knew it, like it just popped out of their head, and they're like a Nobel laureate or something. They will tell you something and be like, how about that? How about that thing I just did? But they didn't do it. So there's like kind of this inflated pretentiousness, I think, that happens in people. And it's totally unfounded or whatever, like this unearned sense of, I'm smart. I know all the things that are in this phone, kind of a Dunning-Kruger effect kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's why I'm loving what I kind of stumbled upon, because it's this inner wisdom that we all carry. We all have a back, you have a spine. You know why you want to get out of your car and walk around, because you feel like crap. Like, we all have this kind of inner knowing, and we can all tap into it. It's not left-brained crap that I just pulled off the internet that I'm regurgitating onto you like I know it. I never read the original source data, like that's not for real. But what's for real is your own body. And the more that we offload that knowledge to somebody else, I got to go see what the doctor thinks. It's like, I am the doctor, okay? Half the time I ask the patient, what do you think's going on? And then they really tell me the rabbit hole effect. I talked to a woman this week for an entire hour before she really told me her major issue. And I diagnosed something that she'd been dealing with for 2 years. How many people had she seen before me, and who didn't have an hour, and didn't ask the right question. 9 times out of 10, I find it's all about asking the right question. And people are kind of doing stuff to themselves that they don't need to be doing. And they kind of need somebody to tell them, like, maybe if you drank more water, you wouldn't have that constipation. Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. I never drink water. Well, I can't be the first person to tell you that, but we live in a whole world where health is not the goal. Unfortunately, sickness care is the goal, and that is giving our money to the 1% that are destroying our country right now. We have the power. We can take it back. As you said, we carry it around all the time. We just need to start looking at one another and going, hey, what do we want to do about this? This is my thing that I can do, that I can put out there. My goal is to get my pillow on display at the Hilo Mall. And I'll have my other things there for people to try out. And I think it's really a try it and see. I hope to bring this the chair pillow particularly, my goal is to get that to the police officers. I've seen so many police officers who have hip and back pain, and I know they drive all day. As soon as I started driving with this, bam, my pain went away. I would love for something like that to help our police officers right now, who I think have a pretty tense job, and they need our support, right? And just kind of a different way of looking and thinking about things. We don't need to throw pills at every problem. What if we just got back to being robust, strong, healthy, creative humans who know how to interact, who know how to engage with one another and ask questions, and remain curious instead of being stuck on these beliefs that are kind of getting us nowhere.
Yeah, I think, I agree. In all EMS personnel, so like EMTs and fire department personnel, that being tethered to a phone 24/7 and, just that environment of like being on duty and waiting for the bell to ring, that will make you tense. And then let alone like what you're going to run into when you get on a scene. But then to just people working, in corporate settings now, a lot of times without even realizing. I mean, it is just a minefield of stuff, to make your hair stand up. Just going through your day to day. It's just navigating, HR nightmares and
it's been interesting because before I got injured 15 years ago was kind of before technology took over in this way. And we weren't on social media as much. And now, for me, I'm kind of like waking up 15 years later. And this new job I just took, I think we have about 12 different applications that we need to interface with. And then the passwords change, and they change all the time. And it's different on my phone than it is on the laptop. And it's just taken me 3 months to like figure out how to begin to do my job. And I'm like, whoa, you guys, this is a change since from 15 years ago. And I personally, I don't like it. I'm like, maybe technology, just for technology's sake, is not necessarily better than other systems, or it's not as smooth yet as it needs to be.
Well, I mean, I think, it's kind of, the intention was never to make it better for anybody using it. The intention was, how can we profit off this? How can we have the least amount of people using this so that we don't have to pay them? And then also, how can we make this as cheap as possible? So
I agree.
They're just going to bark. That's just going to be a part of it, I think.
They're upset. I get it. That part pisses me off too. That's a good point, because technology has really taken over healthcare in so many ways. And I get it. When I couldn't read a doctor's handwriting, that was also a problem. But now, when it takes 15 different passwords to just do my day, I think we're at like kind of an inertia point with technology where it's taken a lot of time. It's stressing us out. Why did we do this in the first place? Oh, it's better at data collection, but it's not necessarily. It's only as good as we program it, and right now, I think our programming and the way we want to live our lives, it's not a magic wand yet for, helping us live a better life. What would help us live a better life is get rid of the beliefs that somebody else is going to do it for you, like you said, and just look at your own self, challenge your beliefs, challenge what the doctor's telling you, challenge the system that's not really designed for your health. It's designed for your sickness.
I think too, and we were kind of talking about this earlier, but something very important, it's not really germane to what you were just talking about, but you made me think of it, is like, while you're busy challenging everything, take a minute to comprehend, like the person next to you, like your neighbor or whatever. Are you challenging them just for the sake of challenging them? Like, could you guys be friends maybe? Or is there some kind of common ground that you could find? What are the differences? Like, why do you, can you have discourse with this person and figure things out versus just kind of being indoctrinated by screens or by your upbringing or whatever, to believe a certain set of beliefs and just die on that hill nowadays, like literally die on a hill instead of, relent for a minute to hear the other side of the story. Yeah. And it kind of ties back into just that false sense of, like, I already know everything that I need to know. Why do I need you? But yeah, so I think it's good to, again, like everything intentional, challenge everything, but then to temper your interactions with other people to understand that those are just other people. And they're going to be right about some things, they're going to be wrong about some things. It's not grounds to just dismiss someone permanently from your life just because you disagree with them or of course it's going to get to a level, sometimes where there's just you can't talk to some people.
I find it interesting
but,
that it's 2026. 60 years ago, we started with the Civil Rights Act and, started integrating society. And even at that time, my impression is we had manners. We had cordiality for what it was worth. And I think that did enable people to bridge a little bit more and to look for the good in others and to, find common ground, where now in 2026, 60 years later, everybody's mad. And, school shootings, for instance, are at an all-time high, and serial killers and things that, like, wow, when did we get this way? So it's almost like once we integrated and we went into our little holes and I can find it, I don't need you. And we got rid of, oh, good morning, sir. Here, let me get the door for you, ma'am, and we just kind of let that go. We lost a lot because we lost the ability to just approach one another and interact and look for common ground.
Not only that, but you have the ability now. So like if I'm having, this actually is a thing that happened where I was just, off my rocker about, just this, somebody had slighted me, but, and I was just, my day was ruined. And then I kind of ran this by you and you're like, yeah, but this happens. And I'm kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess this happens sometimes and I should just get over it. But now we're in a place where people can just go, like you say, go to their hole, flip on a screen, go into like some subreddit or 4chan, and they can get an echo chamber of, yeah, you're slighted. Yeah, you should be mad. Yeah, you should do blah, 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 blah. And there's no consequences on that other end. This is just all advice, bad advice that's coming in that's, egging this person on to sit there and just get angry and validate their beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah, like cell phone addiction. I think we're all addicted to cell phones at this point, unless you're not on social media, and God bless you if you're not. But I've been evaluating kind of that instinct to pick up my phone and why did I want to do that right now? And then I look at Instagram for 2 minutes and I'm like getting mad, and I'm like, wait, I didn't want to be mad right now, and because of the pillow, I think I'm very attuned to my body, and I'm able to like, whoa, slow down and go. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it yet, but I'm starting to reach that point of like, wait, what need is this feeling? And I guess if I could go down a rabbit hole of hate and be like, yeah, you suck, and go to somebody else and you suck and everybody sucks and I'm the only one right here. Boy, that's pretty self-validating. But at the end of the day, what do you got? Not much. But you got the validation reward, dopamine reward, over and over. Kind of scary.
Yeah, and so just to be clear where I'm coming from, because we kind of talked about this too offline, is there's this prevailing theme of like blaming us, like the regular people of the world, for all the ills of society. And it's not, we can't flip that around and say like all of the ills are caused by a small percentage of people, but I think it's not all us either. So you have to kind of step away and say, hey, is this thing that I'm seeing on the news, do I really believe that? Or is this thing on social media, this person going off, is that really what I think? Like, I'm affiliated with this group, but is it time to step away or do something different? I think
it's interesting times because we're being bombarded in a way with all the injustices in the whole wide world, and we never had that before. I call it the age of disclosure. Like, there's no hiding anymore. If there's a war, if there's a war crime, if there's something going on, you're going to see it. And you're going to see it, and you've got emotionally kind of to react. I think that's doing great things in some ways. It's also stirring a pot of hate and bullshit and scary stuff for our nervous system. So we all need to regulate. You know, it's really showing the purpose of my tools is to, okay, now calm your nervous system and feel what that feels like too. Because most of the time when people get on this, they'll say immediately, like, I don't ever want to get off this thing. Oh my God, this feels so good. And that is our default setting. We're supposed to feel like that.
Yeah.
And I think we get to feel good maybe once a week or something. You know, when we go get a massage, you feel good. The rest of your life, you feel stressed. So, of course, we think it's normal to, like, go down that dopamine rabbit hole of how do I get to feel better here, you know?
So, like, today, I didn't want to do this at all just because of the news. Again, you know, there was another shooting, somebody killed in Minneapolis again.
A fellow nurse, and may he rest in peace.
And you know, it's hard to be in that state of mind and then think, oh yeah, let's talk about a pillow. Let's, you know, but what do? Do you just, okay, I give up for today. We're not going to do anything today. You know, you can't let that, yes, it's bad. It's tragic that it happened, but again, it's kind of like, well, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to go in a corner and echo chamber, you know, and just, or are you going to do something that you can show for it, even if it's just a small step to make your life better, make somebody else's life better,
That's
just
why
some
I'm going to keep
tangible
going
thing,
down these holes and teaching people. I think I'm a teacher. I'm here to teach you how your nervous system works. I'm here to teach the healthcare system what it kind of has turned a blind eye to and refused to understand about a lot of female conditions and how our body works in general. We all have a pelvic floor. It's at the bottom of your spine. Let's learn about it as society. And we don't need the powers that be to trickle down information. That concept, I think, is going away. And social media is exposing that our leaders kind of suck. No offense, but you're not getting the job done, and our systems of governance really need to be looked at. I had to turn a real big switch inside my brain to go from, wait, the doctor hasn't fixed it, and they're not doing this test for me, and those pills, I took this one, I took that one, and, you know, it was years of chasing somebody else's ideas about what was wrong with me before I flipped a switch inside and went, well, what the hell could I do about it? If this is the problem, what can I do? I'm, like, humbled in a way and kind of embarrassed that it took so long for me to really turn on my own mind and go, okay, LaRae, well, what would make it better? And it's go, everybody do that. What if we all did that?
And too, like, how much of that is kind of ingrained from a young age? Like, no, you have to do the best possible job, and you are responsible for everything. But the truth is, no one is the island and can do everything. And kind of like what you're saying, it's not up to the powers that be to dictate how we live our life from day to day. We can actually control that. There's way more of us than there are of them. And if we can cooperate, you get more brains together. Of course, we can't do everything well, or even do everything bad. If we try to do everything ourselves, we're going to fail. We need each other to piggyback off of. And so what if you're not getting up and you're not solving, you know, cure for cancer or world hunger or world peace or these things? That would be nice, but the sad fact is it's not one person that's going to probably get up and solve those things. It's going to be effort.
Definitely, as I realized, like, holy crap, this could be the cure for ALS. Oh my God. And then I had so much barriers in people's belief systems to even crack open the door. And like you said, cooperate a little bit. Let's just give me 30 minutes of your time. That became such a challenge. And I realized, like, okay, I'm just one person. I have an idea. This is how much I can do. 15 years into recovering from stuff. Like, I'm at the point where it's like, okay, people, okay, humans, here's a better idea. Now you got to try it. You got to get sincere about your health and see if the answers are on the inside like they were for me. That's not an easier route. That's a hard sell. A pill? Here, take this. It's magic. It'll work. It'll fix it. Oh, yeah, I can see how we got in this trouble of just offloading and getting attached to a system that works us too hard, right? Everybody's working 2 and 3 jobs now to pay bills, where our parents could work 1 job and afford to pay for their whole family. And when did we get wrapped into this mindset that we just got to keep running and running and running, and somehow the powers that be are going to fix it? When I finally realized and woke up that, like, why would I expect the system that never figured me out in the first place to provide me the answer or agree that this is the answer? Like, and then I realized I don't need them to. I just need to find other people like myself who are suffering, who are humbled, and who are willing to make changes. That's what I'm hoping to reach, is other women or people like myself who've had brain injuries and stuff and can't figure it out. Try this. It's logical. It's comfortable. It's kind of soft, feminine that way. It's not hard, masculine, sciencey. You know, it's like, I wonder if the power of your own nervous system could heal itself. You know?
Right. And I mean, if you don't at least take that opportunity to put that out there, then, you know, who knows, like later on you're left with that lament of like, well, I wonder if that would have worked out. Or, you know, you just, how many times does that kind of imagination or whatever inventiveness just go unrealized because people are like, well, it's not perfect, I'm not going to do it. Well, it's just like today with all these dogs barking and people banging and things happening. We could have just shut this all down and just decided we're not pros, let's not do this.
Thank you.
But, you know, who knows? Maybe somebody will see this and they'll get your pillow, or something that we said resonates with them.
Yeah, it's been hard to go up against an entire system and feel like, hey, I got a better solution for pain management, I promise. And it's not easy to be at this part of my discoveries, at this stage of my research where I haven't really gathered any, but I'm starting to get interest in people like it and stuff, you know, and it's okay. Like, I finally arrived at a point where it's like, if there's just one person out there like myself who's suffering, and I know there are, I'm a nurse practitioner, I know there's a lot of us suffering who wants a different solution. Most people I meet don't want to take more pills. They go to see their doctor, they're like, no, I want the answer. What is it? The doctor usually doesn't have time for that. They're like, here's a pill. And even the doctors didn't get into medical school, and most of them, I think, for that. They were smart. They wanted to help people. They wanted to heal. And then they ended up in a system that's pharmacologically driven. Mm-hmm. That, you know, the lobbying, that we're, like you say, we're all stand on the backs of others. You know, I'm not just coming up with this. I'm a nurse practitioner. I've been to school for a lot of years to study anatomy, pathophysiology, pharmacology, what we do about it now. Years and years of looking at people. I'm entitled to have my own brain and to put it together in such a way that I think will appeal to people.
Well, too, it's like you just said, and you mentioned it earlier with the sleep analysis, too, you're observing people. So it's not like you necessarily have to go out and communicate with every single person in the world, but there is that piece that I, you know, sorry to tie everything back to lamenting about screens, but you kind of miss
the screens are the problem.
that context. You have to be able to read people, and you can learn a lot from people's behaviors, right? Either in, you know, looking for their intentions, or, you know, communication cues that you get from facial expressions, or, like you're saying, just observing people in a sleep state and seeing what they're actually doing when they're unconscious. And that experience, I think, probably helped you in inventing this, along with all your other experiences interacting?
It was invariable because it actually started to see like a lot of women have their heads are pretty forward as they age, and I think that has to do with the pillows. The male world, pillows are a little too big for most women, and a lot of elders have that kind of bent over. I have a testimonial that's coming up right now. She's been sleeping on my pillow for a while, and she had a very kyphotic back, and she's looking about 2 inches taller than me. I'm like, whoa, I'm going to give her nervous system time to relax and keep integrating. But yeah, the testimonials are on their way. That's why I kind of wanted to proceed that with this discussion about this is real science. It's also real physiology and how your body already works. And you don't have to take my word for it. It's just the truth. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, it is a pillow. So your stakes aren't that high.
Just a pillow.
You can try it.
It's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. So
that even took a minute too, because I think in Western we're so used to everything being so complicated, right? And
there's no turning back.
The doctor said it's this, and it's some big long name, and can't even remember how to say my drug names. And people are taking pills, FYI, and they don't even know what they're called. They don't know what they're supposed to do. They're taking this one, thinking it's that one. That's a scary situation. There's nothing scary about a pillow. And if it helps you, like it did me, I have to keep going to get this idea out to people that it could help them.
So I guess my last question, not that we've been in Q&A form, but like your idea, what does someone that this has benefited look like? And how do you measure that? Like, how do you know you've been successful?
That's a great question. I think whiplash is a big issue. I had a whiplash as part of my brain injury. So right there, I would look at us whiplash folks, and especially whiplash folks who don't get better. Most people resolve their whiplash within the first 3 months. If you had a whiplash and your neck still hurts, you need my pillow. Certain conditions like the fibromyalgia, any brain disorder or neurological disorder, even just for body positioning, like it makes sense. It's going to enable your diaphragm to work. So if you have a lung condition, that's another thought. If you're confined to bed, I work in the palliative care service now. So palliative care has a scoring system from 0 to 100. Anyone able-bodied is 90 and above, and 30 and below is for sure hospice. I scored about a 40 for about 2 years, which means I was pretty much laying flat all the time. And, 40 is kind of life-threatening, right? So if you're at a 40 where you're laying down all day, this is designed to put you in a zero gravity where your bones are not poking into your everything, So palliative care, I think, is just a great concept. The body is not designed to be laying down all the time, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Well, we covered a lot.
We sure did.
We should probably wrap this up.
Right.
We'll do another one, hopefully soon, more musical in nature. So
right on, and I'll bring the gaming chair.
Are we bringing the band in next time, or you think you'll just fly solo? I think the band would be excellent.
That would be that. Yeah,
I don't know if I've got the equipment to capture it, but we'll figure it out.
Hey, we got a song. We got a couple songs we need the world to hear. Our songs are all about pro-humans, and one of them is called "Listen to the Humans," "Listen to the Children," and another one is called "She's a Queen." So just pro-human stuff, and let's gather our spirits and be happier.
All right. And so, how can people find you? Or I guess I'll put everything in the description on the video, but yeah.
Right on. Like I say, my goal is to get this in the mall soon. By next month, I hope to be there and start showing it off at the mall so people can come check it out.
Yep. So if you're local on Big Island, Hilo,
and you can connect to my Facebook groups. I've got the Cure ALS Now Facebook page. On TikTok, I explain a lot of my ALS research if you want to know more about that.
abetterpillow.com or .shop as well. I'll put the link on the video.
In the bio. And these bad boys I'll be working on. So more and more coming up.
final form.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
well,
much,
thanks,
Clint.
LaRae.
Appreciate your
All right.